Hi yogis and welcome to practice. It's Suzanne coming to you from my home yoga studio. Today I have a yin practice for you, and this one was inspired by sitting at my desk all week doing an online workshop, an online class. I did a lot more sitting than I normally do, and I really felt it in my body. So this is a series of poses to help counter that sitting shape that we find ourselves in a lot during the day. For practice, you'll need a couple of props, a couple of blankets. I have one lining my mat, which I do often for yin. And then, maybe a second blanket, a block if you have one. So we will start in a kneeling posture. Use the props as much as you'd like to find a kneeling shape. I'm going to use the block under my tail, but certainly you could roll up a blanket and have it underneath the hips. If you can't get to a manageable kneeling posture, then find a seated posture to start. And when you are ready, just let the hands gently rest in the lap. Sit up tall. Close the eyes if that feels good. And then take an inhale and exhale to let it out. Begin to find the breath. So oftentimes we will use the practice as we are today to balance things out. So as we begin, maybe finding welcoming intentions of balance. Is there somewhere in your life that's a little out of balance, off kilter? A course that needs to be adjusted? Maybe your balance between sitting and activity. Whatever it is, welcome that to your heart, welcome that to intention. And as you do that, as you're settling into the breath, start to find balance in the inhale and exhale. If you can, count the cadence, count the breath as you inhale. And do the same as you exhale. Seeing if you can match the count, seeing if you can balance the effort and time on both sides. Take a few more breaths here, settling in. And then let the hands rest beside the body, and as you inhale, reach the arms towards overhead. As you exhale, bring hands to the heart, setting intention, settling it into the heart, committing to it for the next hour. And then drop the chin, blinking the eyes open. We'll start with just some cupping of the eyes. This can feel really good if you've been staring at a screen all day. It also sometimes, if you catch a headache right at the beginning, sometimes that can help soothe a little bit. So bring your hands together and start to rub them Mr. Miyagi style until you feel a little warmth in that friction. And when you get to a point where you have that warmth, you're going to close the eyes and then gently cup the hands over the eyes. When you do that, take a moment, just feel the warmth, feel that comfort. You also block out some of the light. And then when you feel the heat begin to dissipate, repeat. So you can keep the eyes closed if you'd like. Rub those hands together, and maybe it's a little easier to get to friction or warmth this time. And then again, when you sort of feel that warmth, find that cup, that little force field over the eyes. Not pressing in, just gently cupping. And for good measure, we'll go one more time. A little warmth in the hands. And then find that cup, that little bit of darkness, that warmth, that soothing. And when you feel the heat begin to dissipate, just let the hands rest on the lap. Take a moment and pause. If your eyes are closed, drop the chin and blink the eyes open. And we'll just do a little love for the wrist and the hands. So turn the palms up in front of you. Doesn't matter which hand you start on. But brace one thumb under the opposite hand. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, gently press the pinky finger open. Inhale to release. Isolate the ring finger, and as you exhale, press. Inhale to release. Go to the middle finger. Release. Go to the pointer finger. Release and go to the thumb. No rush. Switch sides. Go to the pinky. Cricks and cracks are fine as long as they're not causing pain or discomfort. Go to the ring finger. Go to the middle finger. Don't force the movement. Just play with a gentle range of motion. And then pointer. And thumb. We'll go once more and see if you can sense like where the sensation is. Are you feeling it in the hand and the forearm? Is it isolating to the sensation to the finger? If you can, do isolate each finger one by one. It's a different experience if they're solo or in groups. Gently opening the hands. You can do this anytime at your desk if you are working on a long report or paper and you feel like you've been typing for ages. Take a little break, breathe, open up those hands. Probably a good break for the brain as well. Good. After you've cycled through that twice, interlace the hands in front of you. Just note which thumb is on top. And start to find a figure eight shape, just a little movement through the wrist. Good. And then give those hands a little shake. And interlace the hands again, opposite thumb on top, and find the figure eight, but switch the course, switch the direction. For many of us, this becomes awkward and not nearly as fluid, which is totally normal. Unless you're lucky enough to be ambidextrous. Good. And come through to center, back to the center, and give the hands a shake one more time. Bring your hands beside your body. Take a big inhale, reaching up. Bring hands to the heart. Just another reminder of that intention of bringing balance. And then drop the chin, blinking the eyes open, coming into a posture prone on our bellies. So shifting forward, coming into your Sphynx Pose. So elbows are going to be about shoulder width. Start there and then you can adjust. Have your elbows forward of the shoulder heads if you can. The further forward you go, the less intense the back bend is. Palms can be down if that's happy for the shoulders, or palms together. And since we spend a lot of time at our computer and our devices hanging our heads, for today, keep the head just gently lifted. So we're looking for a little opening through the front of the body, but a gentle compression in the back. And as you'll see, we're in almost an opposite position that we are when we're seated at our computers or at our desks. As the body begins to settle, as much as you can, just relax into this pose. Know that at any time, if there's a red flag, or certainly if there's any pain, back out of the pose or come out of the pose and take a moment. Sometimes an adjustment or a shift or a slight change of the shape might help, but every once in a while there are poses that just don't agree with where we are. So as you settle in, be in that breath. If the balance of the inhale and exhale has shifted, can you bring the focus back there? The interesting thing about balance, or the misperception, is that I think we envision it as a constant. Finding balance and just picking a point where everything is in equilibrium. Standing at the four corners where the states meet perfectly. But balance is constant. It's the constant move of the seesaw or the teeter-totter. It's the constant swing of the pendulum. And while we strive for balance, while we strive for equilibrium, it's a bit of a fleeting pursuit. And instead on that focus to the center, maybe the focus should be on the adjustment of the course, on noticing when we get a little too far off in one direction or the other. Because really that's what balance is the constant adjusting and recalibrating. But to do that, we need awareness. We need to be in tune, in touch. So tune in. Be aware of where maybe things have gotten off track or too far on one course. So tune in. Be aware of maybe how things have gotten off track or too far on one course. Because with most things, that awareness is the first step. When you're ready, we'll move into our second posture, coming into a twist. So lift your left elbow and your right arm will reach under. Left knee can come to the side as well. And start to roll onto the back, coming into a twist. Let that left shoulder come as close to the earth as you can get it. And if you need to prop up underneath there, that's fine. And then once the shoulders are set, invite the the left knee to be heavyish to the floor. Again, feel free to use that blanket or block under the knee or the foot if you'd like. And take that foot to the bottom knee if you like. And then settle into this twist. Certainly you can turn the head if that feels good on the cervical spine. And when you are able to settle the body, come back to that cadence of the breath. Finding once again that equilibrium. So the concept of balance often brings thoughts to the appreciation of opposites. Can we have joy without sadness? Can we have light without dark? Can we have vanilla without chocolate? We need those opposites. We need those contrasts. And sometimes we need to have more of one than the other. But eventually we adjust our course. The pendulum swings back. The teeter-totter goes the other way. And for a brief moment we are in the middle. Just a few more breaths in this twist. And when you're ready, return to that prone position. More of the Sphynx position. This time, take the left arm out to the side, palm down. You can kind of shrug the left shoulder into the mat. The right knee bends and then roll onto that shoulder. Now, if you have challenges with your shoulder, stay in Sphynx. Maybe stay longer in the twist. Certainly, you can soften the pressure here. The head can hang, or you can add a block underneath or the blanket underneath for support. But no, we won't be in this pose terribly long. Breathe and be in the equanimity of the breath if you can. Just a few more breaths here. And when you're ready, coming back to be prone. Now, you certainly can go in the Sphynx posture, but we're going to hold that again. So you might take a moment Stacking the hands, resting the head, even finding a little shimmy of the hips if that feels right. And take a moment and just pause and let that first side settle in. And when you're ready, we'll start to lift up towards the second round of Sphynx. Now, if where you were last time was plenty of intensity, you'll stay there. If you feel like you have a little room to work, especially after marinating in that first side, take a blanket or a prop underneath your elbows just to lift the chest. And certainly if you had a bolster or additional blankets and you wanted to go higher, you could. And again, a little lift of the head if you want, supporting the chin or cupping the face. If you're lower to the ground, you can use that block. Certainly get creative if you feel it. And then settle here in this Sphynx shape again. Now it may seem like we're in this back bend shape for a long time, which it is a longer hold between the two sides. But I did sit at my desk a lot last week. But take this time, this space to breathe. Be in the even cadence of the breath. Take this time to really focus and meditate on your intention. Where in your life are you yearning for balance? What needs to happen to swing the pendulum to change the course? Sometimes the answers are very obvious. Sometimes it takes us a while to sort it out. In general, you might just consider the opposite, just as we're finding the opposite shape today. If you are experiencing isolation, maybe finding interaction. If you are feeling lethargic, maybe finding movement. Now, for some of you, this is more than enough. If you need to add a little intensity, either lift the chest a little further or maybe bend the knees. Creates a little more heated energy, a little more yang energy in this pose. If that becomes too much or not a good fit for you, just back off and let the feet come back down. Now, while opposites are sometimes the answer, they are not always so. Sometimes if you're feeling lethargic, that movement is exactly what you need. But sometimes it's rest, actual good quality rest. So once you've identified the imbalance, just take time to be thoughtful of the solution. We're here for just a few more breaths. If you bent the knees, gently bring the feet back to the floor. And if you lifted the torso, slowly come down, starting to unwind. And then we'll find the twist on the second side. So this time, lift the right elbow. The right knee might come to the side a little bit. Left arm reaches under as we come into the twist. The right arm opens wide. If you can, get this right shoulder somewhat heavy to the floor. Settle the right knee, either foot to the floor or prop under the leg if you'd like. And then be in this twist. And hopefully that stimulation through the midsection, that opening of the hip feels like a nice counter to sitting. While we can twist and move a little in our chairs, this range of motion is usually not in the cards. Be in the breath. As you're here with the gentle constriction through the midsection, notice if the balance of inhales and exhales has changed. And if one or the other is being favored, then gently adjust course. Coax the pendulum to swing back. Coax the seesaw in the other direction. And as you balance the breath, welcome that as inspiration to find balance in other places as well. Another breath or two here. And then start to unwind, coming back to prone. We'll add in that shoulder opener. So the right arm this time reaches out to the side, palm down, left knee bends, and then a gentle roll onto that shoulder, getting a little pressure there. Remember, you can support the head. Always being kind to the joints, so red flags are coming up for you. Adjust or back off. Instead of no pain, no gain, you might think of with pain, no gain. Really doesn't get us anywhere, except for maybe childbirth. Take a few more breaths here. And when you are ready, come back to prone. You might stack the hands or stack the fists and just rest the forehead. Taking a moment in stillness, or if movement is, nudging you, then do that. And we'll be here for a minute or two. You might stay in this just prone, surrendered shape. Or maybe a child's pose would be pleasing to you. The child's pose will gently counter some of that back bend work that we just did. So whichever you prefer, come there. Each time you move, coming back to the breath, back to intention, inviting the body to settle. When you're ready, slowly start to make your way up to a seated posture. If you're prone, push back to all fours or child's pose. And if when you get to child's pose, start to come up nice and slow. We'll turn towards the long side of the mat, coming to a seated posture. You might like the blanket under the hips if you feel like some support would help. We'll be coming into a half dragonfly, or some call it a half butterfly. But we'll take one leg wide, the other leg stays bent. Feel free to use the block or the blanket to support the knee. And then turning the heart towards the bent knee, let the hand run down the long leg, starting to curl the side body open on the other side. From here you have a few options. The opposite hand can rest on the hip. You might reach up, taking the hand behind the head, or draping, using that as a lever. You might also like to wrap the hand behind the back, taking the hand to the sacrum or up between the shoulder blades. Just adding that little bit of heart opening, that little bit of shoulder opening. Settling in. The bottom hand you might, just brace against the body or the floor. You might bend the elbow to support the head. You can even bridge the gap there with a block or with a blanket. And then be in the breath, Be in this drapey side bend. Opening up, making room. Finding the balance of the breath. Welcoming that intention, that energy to the balance in your life. Stay here, stay in this breath just a little bit longer. And when we do come out, if you have the arm tucked behind the back, just wait a moment before unwinding that. But when you are ready, slowly start to come towards upright. And then slowly release the arm. If you had it behind the back, it might even feel good to reach the arms wide for a moment. Take an inhale. Exhale, release, and start to draw the legs together. A little windshield wiper of the knees or taking the legs long. Any of those movements might feel good. And when you are ready, we'll move to the second side. So take the opposite leg out somewhat wide. Turn towards the bent knee. Remember, support if you need to here. Support the hips if needed. And then start to reach down the long leg, finding the curl through the side body, opening on the opposite side. And then choose your arm position. All things being equal, maybe mirror the side we did first. However, sometimes you need to make adjustments, and that's okay. If you want, you can wrap the opposite hand behind the back to the sacrum or all the way up between the shoulder blades. And then settle into this little compression through the side body on bottom, a little opening through the side body on top. Even though this pose is asymmetrical, invite the breath to bring the balance, the symmetry to it. And sometimes that's the trick, isn't it? When things are out of balance or off kilter in one area, having balance and stability in another can be helpful. When things are crazy and out of whack at work, but things are settled and in harmony at home, that can help. Be in the breath. Be in the evenness of the inhales and the exhales. Be with your intention. Just a few more breaths here. And then remember, keep that back arm wrapped if that's what you chose. And when you're ready, slowly start to come towards upright. And when you do get there, release the arm. Maybe stretch the arms wide. Take a big inhale. Exhale to release. And now, draw the feet together, knees wide towards a butterfly shape, supporting hips, supporting knees if you like. And in yin, typically we create a little space here. We don't do a tight-in butterfly often, so create a little space between the hips and the feet. And then nice and tall, extend through the spine, and then drape forward. And here, again, try not to let the head hang. Support the head in the hands or on a prop, or just with a lift of the head. Finding gentle roundness, and see if you can give the low back a little love. Now, we've done this whole practice to counter desk sitting, but know that if that's a regular part of your day or your week, is to be a desk warrior, know that you can build in counter movements throughout the day. Set a timer every hour or listen to your Fitbit or watch and get up and move around. If you're lucky to have a headset or mobility, walk around while you're on a conference call. So build in those moments of, think of them maybe as counter poses or relief. Because all those little adjustments, all those little balances that we make along the way just help to create our overall balance. Just a few more breaths here. When you're ready, slowly start to come up. When you come to upright, you might extend the legs and give them a shake. You might shift back and find a windshield wiper of the knees. And we'll transition to a reclined posture. I'm going to shift on my mat here. You might like 2 blankets or a block and a blanket. Coming into a supported fish pose. So this is one of my favorites to balance out desk sitting. And if you do just one thing at the end of the day, maybe this one's it. This one or the Sphynx Pose. If you're using a block, the block's going to go high up on the back. And you might start on the low setting, but if you know you have more space, you can take it up. If you're using a blanket, fold the blanket up, maybe to the side of the block or size of the block, or you can also do a blanket roll. That works too. Your hips stay to the floor, so they're going to stay connected as the block lifts through the heart. And then allow the head to drape back and make sure that this is pleasing for the neck. If needed, use the blanket to bridge the gap so that the heart and the neck can be comfortably open. Arms might drape off to the side. And then decide the position of the legs. So feet to the floor, knees up is a wonderful place to work. You can start with those feet about hips distance. Maybe adjust them more narrow or more wide. Start with the knees stacked and then maybe adjust more narrow or more wide. Just find a place where you can hang out because the focus is here in the chest, in the openness of the heart. You might like to find that butterfly shape, that open hip shape. Feel free to support under the knees. You might allow the legs just to go long. So settle in, make sure you're propped up in a happy way. The initial intensity of the pose does not have to be great because the beauty of yin is that time creates that intensity as we marinate, as we're here. So often starting with that gentle opening, in time the intensity presents itself. So here we are in this opposite shape of being at our desk, of staring at our computers. Take a moment and just marinate in this relative stillness, relative openness, relative quiet. Know that we'll be here for a minute or two more. But if at any point this becomes too intense or you feel like you've had enough for one day, you'll bend the knees and hug the elbows in towards the body and gently shift to your side and pause. Take a few more breaths here. And when you are ready, slowly bring the feet back to the floor with the knees up. If the arms are open wide, start to bring them a little closer to the body. And then a little lift up, a little shift to the side. Carefully dismount from your props. Take a moment just to be still, to feel that block, maybe still a phantom on the back. Feel the energy of the pose kind of wash and echo through the body. And when you're ready, begin to shift to your back. If you use those props, set them off to the side. If you use the blanket under the head, either remove it or thin it out so it's just a little bit of a cush. Find your way, feet to the floor, knees up, and take a moment and just pause, settle in. And from here, with those feet hips distance, maybe you go a little bit wider. Slowly start to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. And then when the knees come to the left side, just let them fall heavy. Staying either in this pinwheel shape, if that feels good, or if you prefer, stack the knees and come into the twist. Be in the breath. Be with your intention. When you're ready, slowly start to come out back through to center. Again, feet to the floor, knees up. You decide the width. And then begin to shift the knees from side to side. Bring the knees back to center. Have the feet the distance that feels good to you. And slowly start to shift the knees from side to side. And then when you're ready, let the knees drop to the opposite side. Finding that pinwheel shape or a stack. If you can, keep it a little bit open. And then settle into the twist. Be in the twist. Be in the breath. Be with intention. Take another breath here. And when you're ready, slowly unwind back to center. If there's anything else you're craving at this point, feel free to find it. Maybe a hugging of the knees in. Maybe a full body stretch. And when you are ready, start to find your way to a Savasana shape. Maybe you keep the knees bent today or add a blanket roll. Whatever you decide, just be somewhere where you can feel settled and secure. Take an inhale and let it go. As you settle in, if you can, I would invite you to set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes. And just take a little time for the practice to soak in, for that balance to find its place. I want to thank you for your practice today, for balancing out that desk warrior energy and position. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. Namaste.